It is the rock station Z93. Happy to be joined in studio by Jay and Scott from Rival Sons, who are in Saginaw for a show tonight at the Dow Event Center, though I do believe they may leave Saginaw for our lack of a hat rack.
We're staying.
Okay, good. All right, good.
We're staying. We're going to rough it.
The show tonight with Whiskey Myers at the Dow Event Center. Tickets are available, Ticketmaster.com, Dow Event Center box office. Now, it was about a year ago when you guys were last here with Greta Van Fleet, and let me set the scene a little bit here. You guys are playing to a packed house because it's a hometown show for Greta, and you guys are wrapping up your set. You're playing Do Your Worst, and the lights at the Dow Event Center go out completely.
Yeah, that was really something.
Actually, we're playing the song oong the new record. We're playing Nobody Wants to Die.
Yeah,
which is even.
I think we opened the show with Nobody Wants to Die. First song.
Yeah,
lights go out. There's nothing.
And it was cool to see though, because in the moment that sort of it sucks. But then you see all the phones go up with the lights and they light you guys up. And now you have this as much as it sucks, it's like a viral video moment that everybody's like, did you see Rival Sons and what happened last night? So it's sort of a negative that turned into sort of a positive for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. They call that, serendipity?
Yeah, something like that. Now, maybe it's just me, but it seems like you guys spend a lot of time in Michigan. You guys play the Greta shows, obviously, and a couple of those got canceled. And then you do your own headline shows. Now you're back. You played Kalamazoo with Whiskey Myers, and then you're doing the show tonight at the Dow Event Center. What is it about Michigan, Scott, that keeps you guys coming back?
I've told the story a few times, but our first tour we came through in a van with nothing, not making money, and just really the band and our front of house driving a van. And as we came through different territories, there were spots things didn't go great, other spots that went better than others. And then when we were approaching Michigan, and specifically like Detroit and the surrounding area, we kind of felt like this is going to be our people. This is going to be where things go well. It's the first time we've ever been here, and it did go very well. And it did feel like it's a very working class, blue collar, rock and roll type of people that we come across here. And it's kind of what we are, and it connects for us.
Yeah, it seems like growing up in Michigan, it seems like the rock shows here, always having traveled now a little bit, and I'm sure you guys see it too. Rock shows in Michigan just have almost sort of a different vibe here.
There's no doubt. Michigan is the stronghold for rock music.
Yeah.
On a national level, which means on international level.
Yeah, right.
As well.
No doubt.
But it's like Michigan's really where it's at. It's where rock is appreciated, and it's still very much a part of the fabric.
Joined in studio by Jay and Scott from Rival Sons. They are playing the Dow Event Center tonight with Whiskey Myers. And before we talk about the new album, the two new albums, which will be coming out in 2023, I want to go back to Feral Roots. I actually had the chance to talk to Cody from Whiskey Myers a couple of days ago. And you guys both sort of had similar years back in late 2018, 2019, where you guys both were sort of riding this wave of, Whiskey Myers had the Yellowstone. They had a number one album. You guys had Do Your Worst, which is a number one song. You both put out albums, and then everything shut down.
I mean, that was a two Grammy nomination album cycle for us.
Right,
Yeah.
and everything just, as you're riding this wave of here's the big stuff that's going to happen for us, everything shuts down. What is that like for you guys when you think here's sort of our moment with the Grammy nominations and the number one song and the new album coming out? What is that like for you guys when everything just comes to a screeching halt?
Oh, I mean, look, we had a great year in 2019. 2020 hit, and we had a lot of plans. We had a lot of plans, but we didn't lose anybody. And 2020 was terrible on so many levels for so many people. For us, we had a hiccup in our career, but it's, I think, the perspective of zooming out and going, well, we're fine. Other people were, hospitals were filled up. People losing people, not being able to say goodbye, all of this stuff. And we made it through, and now we're back out on the road. It's kind of like you just look at it and you take those losses with your victories, because at the end, what we have to do constantly is we're always cost averaging, the benefits, with the hardships.
It's a bit of the case like the cup is half full, half empty. Luckily, we were at the end of our album cycle. We were at the back. We were only going to really work one last song on that. So we were in the fourth quarter. We were wrapping stuff up, you know what I mean? If that would have hit during the front of Feral Roots, it would have been, I feel, reasonably devastating to our career, because we built up a lot of momentum with that record. It would have been a lot harder for us.
So everything shuts down, and you guys obviously, you're not going to be out on the road, and you're a band that's on the road a lot. How much time do you take before you decide? And like you said, you're at the fourth quarter, so another album's on the way. How much time do you take between when the pandemic hits and you guys are shut down and you start talking about writing and recording and what's next for you guys?
I think it was pretty quick, right?
2 months in, yeah, because by the second month, we knew we had to cancel a second tour. We had plans all year. So the second the hatchet dropped on the second tour, I immediately just said, okay, that's it. We're shifting gears right now. Like, I'm starting to write for the next record. And we talked about it and said, okay, we're just going to start trading music and moving into that mode.
Well, there was nothing else to do. It was like, well, I guess we're going to sit around. It went from, okay, we need everyone to just stay home for 2 weeks. All right, I can do that. Whoa, 2 months later, we don't have an end in sight. So
and then crazy ideas like, hey, let's rent a room and we'll stream shows and charge people. And I'm like, this is just sounding ridiculous. We're not going to do that. It's a very symbiotic relationship, the live show. It's a whole thing, We're like family guys. We're not going to go home and it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same, and people aren't going to respond the same, and we're going to have a difficult time creating the same energy. And like everybody did, we saw all these streaming shows, and for the most part, I mean, it was difficult. Watching bands do that and watching it all, I was like, I don't know, I don't get it. This ain't for us.
The idea of getting together and playing and streaming it, that's great. But thinking about the level of production that would be needed for it to sound and look the right way, that's really expensive. And then it's the people sitting at home and everyone's losing money, because nobody can work and all of that. It's like they would have to eat that cost, and it just didn't seem fair to try to do it that way.
So you guys don't do that stuff. Instead, you focus on not one, but now 2 albums that'll be released in 2023. Did the decision to write and record these 2 albums come out of the fact that you guys just had so much time on your hands? Or was there always this thought at some point we should do not 1, but 2 albums and release them close to each other?
I mean, we had a little bit of grandeur on the mind. We had an anchor track that was a big kind of epic for us on our hands that we were working on and finishing. And I think the idea was big. And we had a lot of material we wanted to work through. So it just kind of quickly made sense that it was more than one statement.
I really think that, agreeing with Scott on that, but I think also there was so much going on during the lockdown. And there was so much going on in my personal life, a lot of stuff. And so there was always more to write about. We had to parse out the recording sessions. So it'd be a week here, take a couple of months, another week. In the refractory period of going into the studio and working really hard, and all of us actually being in the same room and getting that creative flashpoint right there. Well, then going back and then you're isolated again. And so there was a lot to write about. And as the identity of the collective was presenting itself, slowly, by the end, we had amassed a very large statement. And so it's like paring it down to make a smaller record. We talked about that, but no, because there's these other songs that wouldn't make the cut.
And that's always been our thing.
That doesn't seem right either.
We've always concentrated our records. If you look historically at great rock records, they're 30 minutes. They're 35 minutes maybe, It gets a little more bloated into the 70s or whatever, but all through the 60s and, early 70s, they're 35-minute records. Why? Because that's what fits on vinyl and sounds good, But it's also very digestible. It's like when you start going past 45 minutes, an hour, I don't know. I think almost every rock record that's an hour, there's 4 songs that you could really just do without. So we've always prided ourselves on concentrating it and just making a record that is the statement, like Killing Your Darlings, pushing stuff that doesnno work away easily.
And every record, whatever label we're on, they go, okay, so we need some B-sides. And no, these are all the songs. We only made 10 songs. We only made 8 songs. That's it.
Every time.
That's our full statement. We don't have
And every time they ask us for B-sides, and what we've done? We've done it a couple times, and then we just drew the line. But there was a couple early records with Eric where they're like, you have to do it. Germany needs extra, Japan needs extra. It's how they do it. You have to make B-sides. And we're like, we didn't make B-sides. This is the record we made, And not to say that it's perfect, but this is exactly what we wanted to say and record, and that's what we worked on. So we actually had to go back in and create B-sides, which we were like, man, these are good songs. We got to put these on the record. But we just go re-record B-sides. That's what we've done in the past, and we stopped doing that.
Well, because it feels weird. You make a statement, and we're all there. The way that we used to create, we'd roll into the studio for 2 weeks with no material and write on the floor. And that's like terrifying. So it's a lot to go through together. So then like ex post facto, you're going to go back in and make these B-sides. It feels completely separate from the collection.
Sure.
Because it wasn't part of that environment.
That's a different fight, man.
It's a completely different thing. So
Joined in studio by Jay and Scott from Rival Sons. They're playing the Dow Event Center tonight. You keep using the phrase statement and collection. And it's interesting because we're now in an era where there are bands that are not putting out collections anymore. They're not putting out statements. They're putting out a song here, a song there.
Yeah.
You guys have a statement that is across 2 albums with an overarching theme that sort of fits in those 2 albums. As other bands are going one direction and they're going to, you know what, we'll put a song out this year and next year, whatever. Why is it important to you guys to have the full album still do that?
I think that there are a couple of answers to that. The first one, Scott and I, we like records. Always have, raised on records. So,
that's what we like. And our friends like it. The people we associate with, they listen to albums. We're album people. And I'm pretty sure it's not just us and our friends. I don't know how you guys listen to music, but remember albums?
Oh, yeah.
This was a great thing, the album era. It really is the apex of great rock and roll, like in historically, you know what I mean? When we kicked into albums, it's like, whoa, now we're not just getting like little like bite-sized singles. There's actually like stories, and you start getting 2112s and like, physical graffitis and like this, like, whoa, there's these like big pieces and exiles and stuff, like albums.
You look at it, and it's really come full circle when you think about it, because 45s ruled the airwaves, and everybody only had 45s. When they started making long play records, it allowed the artist as well as the listener to go on a journey together, because it's not just rock. You think about something like, Blonde on Blonde from Bob Dylan. Like, God, Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands. What's that, like 8.5 minutes?
Like a side.
Yeah, but it's like it allowed a long form statement and interaction to take place. We could change our mind tomorrow. We're certainly not beholden to like these artifacts that we cherish. Who knows? Maybe next record we'll just go like, no. We're just going to make singles from now on.
Right.
Whatever suits us. But for now, it felt that it feels very natural to just make a larger statement record that way.
When you guys write and record these songs and these albums, how much does how they're going to sound live play into what you guys are writing, what you guys are recording?
Oh, it's that's like really walking the line. When you're in the studio, I am constantly thinking of how it's going to sound live, to the degree of where I'll bring my like live rig in to record and even be naming things on devices that I use while it's happening. Like, I know this is going to make the cut. I'm going to name this patch so I don't forget where things are and how things are sounding. But at the same time, you're making a record, and you can't like put yourself in those confines. If you're painting a big picture and a lot of color, and the palette's got to be a lot bigger. So it's a balance.
Yeah, we don't really employ focus groups per se. When it comes to that sort of a thing, it's so much work. Your back's against the wall when you're in the studio, because you're trying to create as honestly as you can. And us collectively, we're looking at it going like, well, is this us? How does this feel to everybody? Where's the tone going with the song? Going over different parts, reworking a song, because we know that there's a particular song. We approach it this way, man, it's not really hitting home the way it needs to, or it just doesn't feel like us. But there's something good there, so then you rework it. And I think that it's like you're so focused on just making the song as good as it can be. Now, in that process, you can listen to it, or we'll be in the control room going, oh, this is going to sound great live.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be great. And
yeah, for
the most part, from my perspective, it tends to work a little more like that. Like, oh, we just made something great. Great. This is going to be so much fun to play live.
Yeah, I think the only guy in the band that's really thinking about the technicality of how things are happening is just me. And if you've ever seen what I'm playing on the space station I'm doing to make it all work, it's like, I'm obviously not thinking enough about what's going to need to happen live because it's like, oh my God, dude, that's what you're taking? Yes. Oh, I didn't think about it.
Those early years of PlayStation really paid off.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Right. When you guys have, 2 albums of new material, is it tough to decide what you're going to put in the set list? Not to mention you guys have, however many albums too that you can pick from, and there are songs that people want to hear. They want to hear Pressure in Time. They want to hear Do Your Worst. Is it difficult to sort of whittle that down when you have all this new stuff too?
I think it's absolutely confining. Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of records now. What do we have? This will be our 8th record?
Scott, I think we have too many.
We have too many records. So, and we've like really explored a lot of different areas, but what you end up really having to deliver to people for the most part, especially for a band where we're at, they need to hear the things that have kind of done well for the most part. Like you might have heard this in a Silverado commercial, or you might have heard this was a number 1, or you might know this because we got a Grammy nomination or whatever. So yeah, we kind of have to pull those in. We can't like kick those away. But in reality, there's a whole nother side to the band that if we could just spread out a little bit more, the sets would be totally different. But we can't play 3-hour sets. And I don't know if people would really like that.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like there's really 3 factors at play when it comes to that. Number 1, you have the audience expectation. Like, oh, I wanted to hear this single or that single, or you read some crap online. I don't know, people talk in social media or whatever. Like, oh, I really wanted to hear this song or that song, and the majority of the time when I hear about it, that was some obscure middle of the record song that wasn't a hit at all.
Yeah, what's wrong with you guys? Why didn't you play Flames of Lanka?
Yeah, you'll get
the instrumental on the first record.
Yeah, we'll get odd requests that don't have anything to do with the songs that are most streamed or whatever. And for me as a music listener and a fan of so many other artists, I definitely get that. Like the songs that you really, identify with. So you have audience expectation, and then you have the burden of, do we please the audience? Do we do that? So that's part 2. Are we beholden to the audience? Are we beholden to a track record of songs that have streamed the most, or singles that have done well, number 1s, number 2s, or number 3s? And then number 3 is us being selfish and just going, it's kind of our job to not care at all what anybody wants from us, and let's just please ourselves. Let's have fun.
Although I do have this, I had a show that I went to that I always think of. I reflect on it for our own band. It was at home at the Greek, and it was Oasis and the Black Crowes. So I wanted to take my pot with me. Like, you've never seen the Black Crowes live. These guys are amazing. I wasn't even about Oasis for him, but it was about, you got to see the Black Crowes. It's going to be great. These guys are amazing. You're going to love it. So we go, and they were working the album Lions.
Yep. And
they only played Lions. They served themselves. And you know what? Honestly, I loved that band. That show sucked. I didn't know any of the songs. They were not very good, the songs, and nobody knew what was going on. Sure. And I was like, this was not a great show. My dad was like, eh. So I reflect on this moment.
Right.
Like, don't get so self-important that you don't, like, do a show.
Sure.
You are playing.
I'm certainly given to self-importance. I'll just think like, look, here's the set list. Here's what I feel like playing or doing whatever. And I've heard the story from Scott so many times. Oh my God. I remember when I went to see the Black Crowes.
They ruined it for me.
I totally get it.
It's a nightmare. This is why this band has a good balance. We're smart about the set list. It's got to be, you have to play things that people are going to enjoy. That makes the show much better all around.
And you know what? I think that there's actually a 4th part to it too. It's the economy of time that you have when you're on stage. Like for us, vocally, I can only do so much, like 3 days in a row, or playing like 90 sets or 90 minutes. But if we run into the like 2 hours or longer, it becomes detrimental for me.
Sure.
So it's like if we had, if we could play 3 hours a night, we could fit all those songs in.
Right.
It wouldn't be a problem.
Do those Bruce Springsteen sets?
Oh, yeah.
3.5 hour sets.
McCartney sets with no special guest.
Yeah,
crazy.
Exactly. With Bruce, he's got all of that saxophone to take over for him. Yeah. Which will rest his past.
Yeah, right.
Those guys can play 3 hours and not play like a B-side.
I
They're
know,
all
it's
hits. They're all
incredible.
hits.
Joined in studio by Jay and Scott from Rival Sons. They will be at the Dow Event Center tonight, and you guys are known for your live show. I can't tell you how many people I've heard say, you got to make sure you see Rival Sons, whether it was the Greta show or this show coming up tonight. And I talked to Cody from Whiskey Myers the other day, and they're known for their live shows as well. I asked him if there's any sort of competitiveness when you're out on the road and you guys are sharing the stage with another band that's also known for their live shows. Do you guys feel like, all right, tonight we're going to go kick their ass, or vice versa? He said, I'll tell you what he said. He said, no, we all just want to have a good time. So I'm curious if there's any competitiveness when you're on tour, or is it more, do you get more competitive in like a festival atmosphere when you're not going to see these dudes again for a couple of months?
I think really any competitiveness is very like light and kind of fun. I will say that we're out for blood every night.
Without a doubt.
And that's just what it is. It doesn't mean we want to strike anyone down, but when we're on the stage, we leave it there.
I think that with us, it's like, it doesn't matter. We've shared the stage with unimaginable talent, you know. over
We've
the
drawn
years.
swords with the finest.
Yeah, with you know, with the greatest. And I think that what it comes down to is when you hit the stage, you're not competing with the other bands on the bill. You're competing with the greats. You know, it's always the greatest performers that you're competing with, imagining that they're in the audience because you're trying to earn your place on that stage every single night. You have the luxury of, first of all, of being a musician that has a huge audience to play for. 99% of all musicians all over the world will never experience that. And you get to do that. So you're earning your place on that stage and you're giving it everything you've got. I think that the band definitely does that.
We definitely put acts on when we're headlining our shows. We put acts on that are gonna push us, that are gonna try to better us every night. God bless them. I hope they do. Go for it. Do your best. And when we go out as an opener, we're out there to do the best and out for blood and leave everything on the floor. We've had tours where it kind of felt like we actually did better the headliner, and it's a weird feeling, kind of. It almost feels a little bit weird, like when you spanked it so hard and you see it kind of disperse after, you're like, whoa, that's not totally what we're going for. That's like, we're trying to make a good show where everybody has fun and enjoys the whole night.
Sure.
Yeah, like any overt competition vibe, you know, it's kind of
That's weird.
It's low rent.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, when you interface with that and you go like, oh man.
Yeah, right.
I agree.
When you guys hear people say that, you know, Rival Sons is the best live band out there, you see some dude tweeting, oh, they're so good. Do you guys feel pressure at all? Do you not? I mean, I assume that you're going to go out and play the show. It doesn't matter what people say, but do you feel any pressure when you see your name pop up when people are talking about great live shows?
No.
I don't know.
We've always gone about it in the same way.
Best
You know.
is so subjective, and it's what are you gonna
I
do?
just take best as like your favorite.
Yeah, right.
Great. So we're your favorite.
Sure.
You know?
To feel that pressure would mean we're feeling like we are the best.
Yeah. No, I certainly, I don't walk around carrying that weight.
No.
You know, that would be terrible.
So what makes for a good live show? What makes for a show where people are saying Rival Sons are one of the best live bands out there? What do you guys, well, you talked a little bit about going out there for blood, but what is it about your show that people talk about you guys that way?
Well, I don't talk about us that way, so it's hard for me to say.
That's
You
me
know,
over
like-
here.
Right. Scott?
No, I don't. I do not do
Yeah.
that. I don't know. It's asking us what our secret recipe is. I think there would be a large amount of pretentiousness for us to act like we know what the secret recipe is. I think internally, from the inside, I feel like there's definitely just the way these 5 individuals on stage communicate and talk and speak and interact. When I see a show that I think is great, that's what I'm really enjoying. It's not exactly musicianship or like they are the best. It's something where I feel like connected to the show. So maybe people are seeing that with our show. I feel that on stage, certainly. So I don't know.
I think that there are a couple of ingredients that no matter what we're cooking up have to be there. And number one would be presence. Like, is everybody present? Are we communicating? Are we completely there? I think there's that, and like supporting each other is another ingredient, like listening. But I think that doing it every time like it's going to be our last time. That's kind of a mantra that we've taken on. Like, it doesn't matter how many people we're playing for, it's the same thing. And we're playing for each other before we play for an audience. It's more about like impressing each other, or like, oh man, did you hear that? Even though we don't say that, but like it's raising the bar consistently. And when you get 5 people that are doing that, it's kind of like it stays up.